Okay, this is the next project I'm going to tackle. I picked this up at the recycler sale as well. As you can see, this is a Super Nintendo, heavily yellowed, pretty dirty and nasty looking. Buttons seem to slide okay. Eject seems to work right. You can see here, this is the color the case should be. So we're pretty heavily yellowed. Interesting. Looks like a chunk out of the corner here. It's a little beat up. You can see the corners are chewed. It's kind of common on these top covers seem to break. I do hear that there's something rattling around in there. I'm going to guess that's a piece of the case. But I think this will be a fairly straightforward project. The one thing I did notice is, oh, I see the case is cracked there. The power adapter there has like a little two prongs in it. And I'm not really sure, but I don't know if that's normal. Based on the consoles I have, I already have a couple of different ones, so I might actually be looking to swap that with one of my other machines that doesn't work. So we're going to get started on this one and just see how it turns out. Okay, so here's the Super Nintendo taken apart. Now, like I said in the last video here, there was some stuff rattling around in here, and I was kind of curious, what that might be. And as I was unscrewing the screws, I kept hearing cracking plastic. And just the case in here, the plastic is just really brittle. So you can see like parts of it have been falling apart, looks like for a while. So this thing's definitely seen better days. And then the screws here are just like risers that are actually built into the top, but they just sort of snapped off as I was taking the case apart here. So not really sure if this one's even going to be able to go back together, but I'm going to try my best here, and I guess we'll just see whether or not we can get this retrobrighted, or if this one might just be a lost cause. I don't even know if this thing works, so we'll get it cleaned up and see what we can do. Okay, here's the guts of the Super Nintendo, if you've never seen them before. You got your little controller ribbon cable here. Never mind that this all kind of fell on itself there. It's not going to hurt anything. You got your reset button there. And underneath this heatsink shield is your chipset. Notice the Nintendo branded chips. Unlike the controller, I don't see any NEC chips on here, so nothing from NEC that I can tell. Kind of interesting construction, just neat. Cartridge port. This little port here is for the sound card, which is all contained in this little daughter board here. Pretty neat little deal. I see the screw's a little loose in there. I'm trying to keep everything together so I don't lose it. Then underneath this heat shield there's just some capacitors, a little microcontroller in there, and it's mostly just a heat sink. And then of course in the back you've got your RF modulator, your multi-out, and then your power components over here. And then of course there's the power switch, which is wired to the board. I didn't take it off because it's just going to go right back on. Here's your cartridge loader insert. That doesn't need to be retrobrighted, so not going to worry about it. Here's all the guts and pieces. There's actually quite a few moving parts to Super Nintendo. Now again, with the broken plastic on this board, I'm saving all these pieces because I'm going to try and super glue them back on so this goes together real nice. And then I'm also hoping to use it as like a color comparison when it's all done and put back together. Yeah, everything in here was pretty easy to clean up, just a can of compressed air, and that was really all it took. So the next step will be to retrobright the case and get it cleaned up and see how it turns out. Okay, we got the top case in the retrobright solution here. Hoping that we get some good results. I'm running out of daylight, unfortunately, so It's going to be kind of iffy, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, so just an update on our retro writing process. Here's what our plastic, of course, should look like. This is the top case, which you can see is wet. I rinsed it off. I had it outside retro writing, and unfortunately just ran out of daylight. But you can kind of see it's still yellow, but when we compare it side by side with the bottom portion, quite a bit less yellow than before. Unfortunately, still not quite up to snuff. So we'll get this back in the Retro Bright tomorrow and get the bottom in the Retro Bright as well and move along from there. Okay, this has been out here for a couple hours now, so I just wanted to quick take a look at the Retro Bright and see how we're doing. As you can see, it's making some good progress. Yeah, it's looking really good. It's still got some yellow, but you can see the inner part here, which actually isn't needing the Retro Bright. It's starting to match up pretty good with the outer part. I don't know how much better this is going to get, but I'm going to go ahead and just leave it for a little while longer, and we'll just see what we get after a couple more hours. Okay, so the Retro Bright is done on the top. You can see it's not perfect, but it's pretty good, especially when you compare what it used to look like. I think we've made some significant improvement here, so I'm going to go ahead and call the top done at this point. I do see I still got to rinse off some baking soda from the bottom here. And tomorrow we'll get this one in the Retro Bright, and then we'll get to assembling. Okay, finished retro brighting the bottom portion yesterday. So again, here's the top. You can see it came out pretty good. Shadows here kind of make it look a little bit different, but pretty gray versus the yellow, which you can still see in the interior of this. I'm not going to bother retro brighting it for the interior because you never see that anyway. But the bottom portion here, you can see the colors match pretty darn even, maybe even a little bit better than the top, which is surprising. But yeah, really close. Not 100%, this brilliant gray, but I don't think that we could ever really quite get that because this is a different plastic material anyway. So we're going to move forward with trying to reassemble this. As you recall, the posts here, 3 of the 4 broke off, so I'm going to have to try and figure out how to super glue these back into place so we can get everything mounted properly, but we can start reassembling it today. Okay guys, here's the Super Nintendo in all its retro glory. As you can see, the color's still, not perfect, but it's quite a bit better from where it was. It's definitely cleaner. One odd thing I noticed is I have a leftover screw. I have no idea where it goes. There's 2 spots on the logic board that have screw holes, but nothing behind them, and only 1 leftover screw. All I can think of is there was some shattered plastic in here that, as I was unscrewing things, more of it broke, and possibly one of the small screw risers that this went to on the board probably broke off and is long gone. But I'm going to go hook this up. I actually have my Super Nintendo that I regularly play hooked up, so I'm going to plug this in and see if it works. Okay, so interestingly enough, here's the Nintendo I have regularly hooked up. You can see the power connector here has this little plastic receptacle, and the one I just restored is missing that, and it just has this 2-prong deal in here. So I connected it to a power block, didn't work. I have these 2 other ones here that have been in a box for forever. They both have it. I'm not sure why, but I thought at some point I had the same issue with a break on one of these Super Nintendos, and that's why I ended up buying a different power piece, but not sure what happened to that exactly. So I don't know. I think both of these don't work, so I might be able to take that power plug off and put it on this machine to test it to see if it works, but really this is just about seeing if I could take it apart and retrobrite it. You can see my normal one here, I notice actually has a different service sticker on it compared to what came stock. So I'm guessing this one's been serviced in the past. But you can see this one's really yellow compared to the retrobrite. And then you can actually compare that to one that hasn't been retrobrited that wasn't yellowed. So just interesting, but I think that's going to be it for this project for now.